welcome into the Denver Sports Podcast presented by Breckenridge Brewery, our favorite brewery here at DNVR. I'm your host, Ali Monroy, and with me today I've got Rick Frick, AJ Hasty, Henry Chisholm, and Andre Simone, and we are talking about college athletes with the new rules being announced for the first time. NCAA athletes are able to make money or will be able to make money from a wide variety of business ventures. So, Henry, I'm going to business ventures, likeness, all that stuff. There's a lot of different things. So, Henry, I'm going to toss it to you. People on the live side of things, we apologize for Henry's low volume. So, Henry, yell for us.
I would love to yell. So the NIL stuff. Here's what's up. So basically, a bunch of states, like 4, 5, 6 states, said that July 1st, they would be allowing, like they were no longer allowed to ban student athletes from making money off of endorsements and things like that. Because they did that, the NCAA had to say, well, we can't have an unlevel playing field.
Bring Tebow on.
Tebow, shut up. Tebow's very talkative. We're gonna be talking a lot about Tim Tebow too. I'm sure that'll help things. She's just staring and barking. But yeah, so July 1st, that'll went into effect. So NCAA just said, yeah, everybody has to be able to do this. So now you're able to make money off of endorsements. You can be in ads. Before, if you were a soccer player, for example, you wanted to coach at a soccer camp. Well, you couldn't get paid to do that because it's sports related. Now that's allowed too. So schools still aren't allowed to pay athletes, but they are allowed to Tebow, come here. Yeah, come here. But you're allowed to do the endorsements. So there you go. That's your basic rundown.
Okay. Is my audio still messed up, or can everyone hear
Yours
me?
seems better now.
So far, so good.
So this is just going to be an interesting TDSP, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that info, Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Today's topic is going to be which athletes would have made the most money under these new rules. We're going to talk about buffs. We'll talk about some Rams. Justin Michael couldn't be on the show today, but we'll mention some Rams that might have been making the most money, and then we'll talk all athletes in general. Or maybe we'll start off with all athletes in general, all sports, who would be making the most money. So let's jump right into that. Ryan.
Quickly, I just want to give a shout out to Joe Pompliano, who tweeted this out and stoked the idea for us.
Oh, yes. Thank you to that. I was going to say, don't ruin. I'm reading something else that he said later, so don't ruin that.
Oh, okay.
Under your hat, Ryan.
Go, Ryan.
Okay. Well, I mean, to me, the answers are really, really, really easy. Tim Tebow would have absolutely made the most money out of anyone, and I actually don't even think it would be close. Because he was a worldwide sensation. A lot of these guys were famous, nationally. And obviously, we talked a little bit in the Slack about this last night. Justin mentioned Vince Young and how Texas fans are insane and he would have made a ton of money. He absolutely would have. But Tim Tebow was just different. It really comes down to his relationship with religion and all of that, and how he was so open about his religion and really wanted to get the word out. It made him transcend sports. And I think and there are a couple here who became public figures, I guess, like a Steve Prefontaine type of thing. Mm. But Tim Tebow to me is the one that truly transcended sports and became a worldwide superstar before he left college. He won multiple Heismans, right?
He was a finalist for 3 in a row. He never did win that second one. But he wins his first one as a sophomore.
Right.
That's where he has a massive advantage, right?
And 2 national championships. So he had the football thing going. He was at a massive school in Florida with a crazy following.
Massive.
And then he had that extra bit, which just made him, to me, the most famous college athlete ever, and thus would have made the most money.
Do you guys agree, or do you think there's someone else? AJ, who do you think would make the most money? Do you agree, Tim Tebow?
Yeah, so my litmus test for when somebody claims somebody is worldwide famous is just to ask my fiance about it, knowing that she is very closed off in her sports consumption. If it's a football player, she She referred to him as George Elway relatively recently. to give you guys an example here, not to like put her on blast in a negative
That's amazing.
light, just to show you that that's not her world.
Yeah.
And as RK was talking, I just texted her and said, have you heard of Tim Tebow? And she gave a correct answer on his description. So it really drives home RK's point that he transcended his sport. That people who don't care about football, who definitely don't care about college football in Florida, were familiar with at least him as an athlete. So it's hard to say just a guy that had that kind of reach, that there would have been somebody that would have had more opportunity to cash in. You know, there's lots of interesting, like Vince Young and Reggie Bush and some of those guys. You know, Matt Leinart, we forget what a huge star he was in college for those couple of years. Like those guys would have had very lucrative college careers.
Yeah.
But Tim Tebow was unbeatable. I mean, he was there was just nobody else in his 4 years of Florida that could really top his earning power.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I mean, I think he probably triples anybody else.
That's crazy.
Where I would look in terms of numbers. But then you have like all the other guys. You have Johnny Manziel. You've got Reggie Bush. You've got. I think it's mostly just football players is the thing. You know, basketball players. If you're big enough for people to really want you to advertise and offer you a lot of money, you're going to be gone in 1 year anyway. And when you guys brought up with Tebow, a Heisman his sophomore year, just kind of kept building the hype from there. Yeah, he's just on a different level than anybody else.
Well, and to get it down even more to like the business side of things, like his earning avenues would have been totally different than everyone else's. Like this isn't just like going and, you know, advertising Nike or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, he could have been doing like public speaking things and going to.
He already was.
Right. Like going to churches and like all sorts of stuff like that. That just would have opened up so many more avenues for him.
Yeah. I mean, he was like the face of a very large anti-abortion campaign, which, like, without getting into all that, you know, that's something that he was able to do and became kind of the face of. And that's just not how other athletes are seen because they don't live in those sorts of worlds.
Yep. I think to me, though, second place would be Johnny Manziel.
Really?
His NFL career was so bad that I think we forget what a star he was. He won the Heisman as a freshman. So he was the youngest Heisman winner ever. And he was like at the perfect point of social media sensation where, you know, like Tim, I don't really remember what the state of social media was when Tim Tebow was in college, but like virality and stuff was a much bigger thing when Johnny Manziel was around. And he was the one racking up followers on all sorts of stuff that I think he really could have monetized. And of course, you know, same situation playing at Texas A&M, like massive donor base there, all that stuff. Maybe that's a hot take, but I think I would put him second.
Well, so we all agree one is Tebow. Two, I do want to hear. AJ kind of raised his eyebrows when you said that. So AJ, do you disagree?
Yeah, I don't know that. Like, he was really recognizable for the 15 minutes or whatever that he was really hot before going to the NFL, but I don't like. Yeah, the booster. Look, he would have been able to make a lot of money because the A&M boosters could have just given him cash. They like, but I when we're talking about like earning potential, I'm not really. I don't know. I don't really. I guess I'm thinking more in terms of like advertising dollars, right? Like deals he could be making. Things like the money that he could be making off of his likeness, not by rich guys that are big Aggies fans being like, here's an envelope of cash. So, you know, I guess if you consider that, then maybe.
No, because even that's still not allowed. But I just think he was like a sensation. I think he was as much of a sensation as just about anyone. But again, I think it was such a flop in the NFL that we kind of forget what a big deal he was.
And he did have his own lane too. You know, I think if you're MGM, you kind of want to fly him out to Vegas for a weekend and make him the spokesman for Vegas and like do all this kind of stuff. Whereas, you know, you have your Vince Youngs, you have your Matt Leinerts, very good football players, personalities that are recognizable, but what makes them unique and super marketable?
Right, like Johnny Manziel is the party guy.
They were a
college quarterback likes to party isn't really a unique angle though.
But
he obviously made that like that was his image.
Yeah.
But it's also not a unique thing. Like he was that Johnny Manziel was a moron and just an idiot on a national stage. Like that's part of what separated him is because he was such an outright dumbass so often. But does that make him more marketable?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
He was out there a lot for sure.
I'm trying, like, I'm remembering, like, a touch older than you guys, save Andre, who's old as shit. But Reggie Bush was a huge deal
in LA.
in
LA.
Like in a city like that. At the time, didn't have NFL football. Mm-hmm. Like the baseball teams weren't any. Like he was a massive deal in the marketing capital of the world, and Reggie Bush was as recognizable as anybody during his USC career. So I think I would probably go with Reggie Bush was the other guy that really stood out to me when I started thinking about this. Of like modern guys. I mean, you go back in the day and you get into like Deion Sanders at Florida State, you know, Herschel Walker at Jordan. Like there were some guys way back in the, you know, what could have Bo Jackson made back in the day, right? If he had done everything that he wanted to do. So
how could a Bird Magic profited off of their rivalry in college as college basketball's booming back then? Yeah, for sure.
Brian Bosworth would have been huge.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, the Bos would have been a big deal.
Huge. Roger Staubach, to me, like an American hero, would have really been like a massive get.
So speaking of Reggie Bush, I have this tweet pulled up from Joe. How do you say his last name? Pompliano. He said estimates suggest Reggie Bush would make between $4 million to $6 million annually with the new NIL rules. Then, of course, he states what pretty much everyone knows: the NCAA took away his Heisman Trophy because he accepted $300,000 under the table. Allegedly. But yeah, $4 million to $6 million annually.
It's insane. And yeah, I mean, Reggie Bush was huge too. And he's a similar case where the NFL career wasn't nearly as draped in stardom. And so we forget a little bit what a sensation he was.
There's something to that era too, where you didn't have social media. So if you're the star of stars, you're just on SportsCenter 24/7, and everyone sees that. Yeah. And that's Reggie Bush was much more that year, like dominated. I think Vince Young, Ricky Williams would be up there ish, and my second would be probably Doug Flutie. I think Doug Flutie was kind of that generation's Johnny Manziel. I think he was a cult hero. Kind of had peaks similar to Tebow that just didn't last as long. You know, there's some BC like Catholic stuff there too, which is giving him a little more support. He's also short and kind of unique, so you know that's kind of it was a bit of a college level insanity for him for a minute there. So I'd say maybe not, wouldn't have stretched his earnings as much as like Tebow, but he would have had a 3-month stretch where Doug Flutie would have been swimming in it. And I could say the same about Zion quite recently.
That's what I was going to say. We're very focused on football, but
yeah,
Henry, you said basketball, and I immediately thought Zion, especially with Ryan, what you said, the fact that social media, it just like these players who like a few years ago, or maybe even 15, 20 years ago, the whole world might have not known them. Social media has made it so that if you are good on social media, everyone will know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it on a 1 year basis, then you'd have to include a lot more basketball players in this. But Henry made the point that these guys are in and out in 1 year, and then they are on to making real money. That it makes it a little bit tougher just because they aren't able to like grow their stardom, somewhat similar to the way that we talk about with Tebow. Like he wins the Heisman, and then he has that speech, that goes viral and all that stuff. Like you have more time to like build a brand. Carmelo Anthony, would have been an example of a guy who one and done, but like he was such a huge sensation for Syracuse that year, and obviously they go on to win the national championship, which helps them even more. So certain things like that. I mean, if you are going on a 1 year basis, you'd have to rope in a lot more basketball players, and basketball players are more easily branded because their faces on TV the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, you think about from an older basketball perspective, like you look at Christian Laettner's career.
Yeah,
he was. I mean, that dude. Do we forget that now? But that guy was on the dream team.
Yeah,
as a college player, he was on the greatest basketball team ever assembled. He was on that team.
Yeah.
Like that guy was as special a college athlete, as recognizable a college athlete.
right.
The thing that I think probably takes away from his earning power is that everybody hated him.
Yeah.
But
So-
how much does that take away? Like, because
Marketable.
for that. Like, if you're
Well-
play into it a little bit.
If you're a Duke fan, you love Christian Laettner, right? Like you're all about everything, but everybody else hates the guy that comes out of Duke. Like Zion was the anomaly.
Yeah.
Everybody loved watching Zion for 1 year, but everybody hated Christian Laettner. Everybody hated JJ Redick. Everybody hated all of those guys that go through Duke.
Who would have made a lot of money and is another white basketball player, but from the other side of North Carolina is Tyler Hansbrough. Hansbrough's also like on Sports Center 24/7. He's in that era where like if you're famous, you're dominating, and he would have had a stretch, man.
He's the one college basketball player growing up that I could name. Like, and I think it's just because he was like around for so long. Like, it was just every year, it's like, turn on the tournament. There's North Carolina with Tyler Hansbrough. And I was not a college basketball fan at all. But he did cross my mind when we were talking about this, too. Just the level of success, was it enough?
The other one, I mean, a cultural impact that transcended sports. Dude, the Fab Five.
Yeah.
How much money would the Fab Five have made?
Ooh.
Yeah, the only problem is they would
know.
have had to split it 5 ways.
Yeah, like individually,
deals like that with them all together.
But the Fab Five as a group would have been able to probably come close to Tebow as anybody else,
Right.
because their cultural impact was, enormous. It's still felt like Jalen Rose is still in front of us today.
Yeah. And they had a 2-year run. So that's huge for basketball.
Yeah.
That 2-year run would really be. Yeah, I mean, I even think of, like how big is basketball in Indiana, what those Bobby Knight teams were at that time, and Isaiah Thomas is on like the last undefeated college basketball. Like Isaiah Thomas in his era, if we were to prorate by era, probably makes a ton of money. But
Yeah.
I think the guys we've touched on are just on another transcendent figures, really.
I totally agree. Let's take a break real quick before we talk about Colorado athletes. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is obviously everyone here's favorite betting app. Ryan and Andre do a show about it all the time and talk about all the bets that they're placing on DraftKings. Henry, we've heard all of Henry's stories when it comes to betting. He's a sweet boy, Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not good. Are you on a run right now, Henry?
Well, you're not allowed to bet up here in Montana. Well, that's not
Got
true.
'em.
You have to go to like a kiosk at a gas station, and then they don't offer like props or anything. It's just like
Straight lines.
who's gonna win, and then they give you like minus 135 on both sides, and so yeah, I'm taking a little break, I guess, and it sucks. I'll say that.
Sounds terrible.
It is.
Yeah. That does sound terrible. Well, okay, never mind, Henry, then, since you can't bet. Ryan and Andre, do you guys have any bets that you are placing tonight that the people on TDSP should get behind?
The Rockies are winning tonight.
There you go. There you go.
And
the
you're
consensus
taking
pick of the
over
night.
11 runs, right?
Yeah.
I am. Yep.
Yeah. And we're all in on the Bucks as well. So there you go.
Well, speaking of, DraftKings right now is still doing a pick any basketball team that is still in contention. Bet $1, and if the team wins, you win $100 in site credits. It's literally that easy. Just got to pick a team to win. Nothing else, not by score, nothing like that. Just pick which team you think is going to win. Bet $1, and you can win $100 in site credits. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that promo code DMVR when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. DraftKings always has a bunch of profit boosts, a bunch of little things that they throw at you daily. It's great. It's free money, basically. So even if you can't get in on this offer because you already use DraftKings, you already know that you'll get thrown some emails with some profit boosts and all that good stuff. So definitely check that out. Use the promo code DNVR for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Wagers paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Now, Ryan and I are in the process of moving. And let me tell you how exhausting that is. So we have been relying on Strava Craft Coffee, which I haven't had one this afternoon. Oh, lucky. I haven't had one this afternoon. So my words are getting a little jumbled. I'm tired. I need some Strava Craft Coffee. You need some Strava Craft Coffee in your life. It's CBD infused. They offer decaf regular. They have espresso. They have drip coffee. They have everything that you need, and it's really, really great. We also have it here at the DMVR bar. You can get it in cold brew form, and you can get 25% off your first purchase when you use the promo code DNVR. And you can also subscribe to Strava Craft Coffee, which means you can get coffee delivered to your doorstep every 2, 4, 6, or 8 weeks, whatever you prefer. And you can receive 20% off your CBD infused coffee every time. Ryan, why should people subscribe to thedmvr.com?
I mean, geez, where do I start? First of all, you get to see all of our written content on the website, which is like the very like baseline, but it's so there. I mean, there's so much great content from everyone, from on all of the different teams. Beyond that, you're going to get a giant beer at the DNVR bar, which is 6 ounces bigger than normie beers, as we call them. And so you get that for the same exact price. We got deals on that. You're going to get a free shirt when you join. You're going to get deals on shirts all the time. We've got a bunch of new stuff coming out soon, so keep an eye out on that. The list goes on and on and on. You can go into the members-only Discord and check that out, where you can just kind of talk sports and not have to worry about all the other BS that you see on social media. I mean, it's endless. You can just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, and there's always new stuff being added.
It's pretty great. I totally agree. Nice. Subscribe to thedmvr.com, like Ryan said, for all of those reasons. Okay, let's jump back in and let's talk college student athletes. First, I also want to say that another really cool thing.
You mean Colorado student athletes?
What did I say?
You said college.
Colorado student athletes. See, I need some Strava Craft coffee. I need someone. Maybe next time I see Brandon, I'll ask him to go get me some.
Veins.
Like I was saying, something else that's really cool about this new rule is that it's not just money from advertisers or that type of thing. We had a tweet from a football player saying, now that the NCAA will allow it, I'll be playing live shows this year at this venue near his college. There's people who will now be able to coach younger kids and get paid for those like after school activities, which is really great. So it's not just getting advertising money and all that stuff. It's allowing people to be creative and do other things besides just playing sports, and they can make a little bit of money off of it, which makes it easier to be able to do more things. So really great stuff. But all right, Henry, we'll start with you. Or I guess we shouldn't start with you. I guess we could start with you in the sense of current athlete, current CU buff. Who do you think is going to take advantage of this rule?
I mean, you have to look to Nate Landman first. He's like the identity of that team. He's Butt Kiss Award finalist. I think he was only second team All-American last year because he missed the end of the season, so he wound up playing 4.5 games because of the Pac-12 shortened season and all that.
Yeah.
But he is like the one that you look at. From there, you've got Jarek Broussard, the running back, first team preseason All Pac-12. Pac-12's Offensive Player of the Year last year. He's definitely way up there. And I think that those are definitely the two you look to. And then, of course, once they figure out who the quarterback is, quarterbacks get a lot of money.
Yeah, it'd be really cool if a local brand partnered with Nate Landman and did some cool stuff.
It'd be really cool.
How about that?
Yeah, would be cool.
Maybe something to keep an eye on. Maybe someone will.
Maybe.
Okay, well, I turn to Henry because when I think of buffs right now, I think of Henry. But
I appreciate
Henry
that.
hasn't been
Not even a buff.
I know he hasn't been around the Buffs organization or program for a long time, and he isn't even a Buff himself. So we got to turn to Ryan when it comes to history of Buffaloes. And who do you think from football would get the most money out of all of the CU players?
So there's an interesting sidebar that gets created here, and that is, of course, the Jeremy Bloom discussion.
Yes,
Very true.
And that's kind of where my mind went first and foremost. Jeremy Bloom was a gold medal skier at the World Championships in moguls. And because of that, he would have been marketable on a whole other level. Not to mention, he's an absolute stud.
Model as well.
Just a great looking guy. And so you have that going for you. He's a championship freestyle skier. He is a electrifying talent on the football field, insanely fast. And it just kind of creates like a perfect storm there for him where he's marketable beyond just Boulder, because he's got this like Olympic skier thing going for him. Under these current rules, he would have been able to participate because, he's getting sponsored to ski. And I think at least he would have been able to do it under the current rules. He would have probably found a workaround. Yep. So there's so much there where he would have become more of a national name that I think he really rockets up these charts. After that...
Wait, but didn't Jeremy Bloom have to choose and couldn't play football because of this rule?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of got caught in between two different things. Like, first he was like, I'm going to keep playing football. Then he's like, wait, I actually want to go back to the Olympics. Then he tried to go to the NFL, and they ended up screwing him over in a million different ways.
NCAA is good at that.
Yes. So I think I put him, honestly, at number one. But CU has had a Heisman winner, and all those Heisman winners were raking it in, in this world. So Rashaan Salam, I think, goes in there as well. 2,000-yard rusher, big time sensation, and I think he would probably be number two. But then you have to take in the quarterback effect, and that's where Cordell Stewart's name comes into play. The Miracle in Michigan itself would have been so marketable, so many different things you can spin off of that he would have made a ton of money as well. So those are like the three that jump out to me as three really big time ones. And I guess to go a little bit more recent, just in terms of being like a national name, that and having the social media and all that stuff on your side in terms of marketing, I would go to Laviska Shenault as a name who is, looked like he had an opportunity to be a top 10 draft pick at one point before kind of injuries snuck up on him.
I do think, though, Laviska Shenault had a lot of that stuff down, but he was very shy, so I think it might have forced him to come out of his shell faster because he would have needed to for commercials and marketing and all that type of thing.
Right. But he also just has a marketable look. Like, he's like the perfect football player. Like, if you were going to build a statue of a football player, you would just build him.
And I think locally, people would have taken like Cepho Lufau and Philip Lindsay and run with it. They would have they would have been really marketable. They would have been coaching. They would have been giving speeches. Like Cepho Lufau was very inspiring to a lot of his teammates, and in that moment, really like they went through such bad seasons when Cepho like was going through it all and came out of it on top, and I think that would have been great for like him to talk to high schools and all this stuff
Get paid for that though.
But you never know.
Yeah, Phil, I think, is a
Yeah, I
really
don't.
being a local kid who kind of blows up, becomes the leader of the team, that sort of thing. That would have been very marketable.
Dre, AJ, do you guys have anyone that stands out in your mind? Colorado Buffs athletes, CU Buffs.
I mean, I think Jeremy Bloom for sure is
Yeah.
top of my list. Yeah.
We
I
haven't
think
mentioned Chauncey yet.
Oh.
him and Cordell.
Chauncey
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's up there. He's worth mentioning for sure. But is he raking it in with Colorado basketball? Probably not.
Right, and they didn't ever have it like a deep run or anything
Yeah.
like that to go off of.
Maybe not like raking it in, but like out of other athletes around him, like Josh Scott, I feel like is a name that comes to my mind.
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't think
more
he'd be
Alex
making a
Bird.
bunch of money,
Yeah.
but he'd be
Or
making more than a few teammates.
Definitely.
Or
I mean, it's
Spencer
just with those
Dinwiddie
guys-
was like really good at self-marketing. Like that would have helped him a lot. But I mean, none of these guys are. It's
Top
kind of
tier.
that conversation we just had earlier, where you can name a bunch of guys who are good and cool and whatever, but there's only a few. I really think there's only a few that have come through CU, especially post national championship, that would have been able to actually make anything
Yeah, for sure.
eye-opening.
Yeah. And it's really all about the national appeal. Like,
Right.
you know, like Phil would break it in around here, and that's great. But like John Salam winning a Heisman, that's just a totally different kind of money that you're bringing in. You know, when you look back to like the CU championship team around that era, maybe some of those guys can get into that national scene. Again, I wasn't around for that for many reasons, but like
because you weren't born yet.
Exactly, but you have like does Darian Hagen, like those sorts of guys, like maybe they could break through nationally.
Yeah, you had multiple Butkus Award winners in Matt Russell and Alfred Williams, who definitely, had a national name. So those teams, I think, those were the more marketable days of CU.
Sure.
Eric Bieniemy, but again, it's tough to go into that next level where you're known nationally and people want to buy products that you endorse or whatever it is. Like that's that's a step above.
Okay, I'm gonna have a few of you guys do, or maybe think of some Rams. I'm going to talk about Solace Meds real quick. Obviously, I wish we had Justin here, but he's moving as well. Everyone's moving. It's just the time of the year, and so he wasn't able to be on here for this topic. But Solace Meds, they're one of our new partners. Their premier dispensary with smoking hot deals, and they have 4 convenient locations in Colorado, 1 in Fort Collins, 1 in Wheat Ridge, 1 off of Broadway, and 1 just blocks away from East Colfax and the DNVR bar, literally just straight down the street. Like I said, they have a lot of awesome deals, especially in the month of July. And when you head into their Wheat Ridge location, you can get a free Solace bar or King Cone when you mention the code DNVR20. And you can also head in and mention DNVR20 to receive 20% off and get a free Solace bar or King Cone, again, at that Wheat Ridge location. You can use DNVR20 at checkout online. You can order and then go pick up. There's a lot of different ways you can get your Solace Meds, but they are a great partner. And of course, supporting our partner supports us. So definitely check them out, DNVR20. Did I give you enough time? Do we have some Rams that stand out in your mind?
Can you name a Ram?
Bradley
Joey Porter.
Outside of Bloom, Bradley Van Pelt would have gave all the Buffs names you just listed a run for their money. Wouldn't have the national acclaim, but cult hero locally, very marketable. If you don't think that's true, you're lying to yourself.
But you're saying locally, and we talked about
marketable as a Heisman winner. I'm lying to myself.
Yeah,
Rashawn Salam, bro. There's a Heisman winner every year. There's a running white quarterback once every 10.
What?
So I've done the data. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're way off.
Marketability. That's where you're at.
I'm not trying to say he was a good player for CSU.
Hey, I tried to make it separate so we wouldn't have this pinning against each other.
Yeah.
Well, Andre just tried to say that he was as marketable as anyone not named Jeremy Bloom, and it's just not true.
He's right there with Salam and Cordell as far as earning in their eras. Are you kidding me? In their
Gatorade
eras, of
is
course.
not reaching out to Bradley
Of
Van
course.
Pelt. Gatorade's not reaching out to Bradley Van Pelt.
Henry, you weren't even alive. Stand down. Now.
Okay, fair.
He was alive.
Be not involved.
I'm just telling you, Colt Hero locally would have made a lot. It's just out
But
there.
again, you
Yes,
said
he would've been
locally. We
doing
were talking
deals for-
nationally.
He would have been doing deals
Right.
for.
He wouldn't get the
Crazy
push
Carl's
from the national
Pizza.
guys.
Ooh.
I think you're discrediting how much juice BVP had, even in his first year as a rookie Bronco and everything.
College
I will say
as
we had
Subaru.
Crazy Carl pizza when we were in Fort Collins, and that pizza's really freaking good.
That's
I
a
just
real
had to say
place.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that's something Ryan just made up.
No, we had it
Oh, it's a big deal.
during the Spano wedding. Afterwards, we went and got some pizza. It was very, very good. I liked it.
I would eat it again. Joe's Wings would have been all over Bradley Van Pelt.
I think he's
was
getting
big.
car dealerships in Denver, buddy. Just
Absolutely
letting
not.
you know. Okay.
Okay. Anyways,
Anyone older than
So
12
he-
in the comments who wants to chime in, feel free.
AJ's face says it all.
Yeah, but I mean, he's
I love you, Dre, but you're fucking high.
Dude, Cordell, maybe I'm overstepping. Salam, okay, you got
He
the
won
Heisman.
the
Anyone
Heisman.
else?
Yeah.
Come on.
I loved your argument against him winning the Heisman that they give one every year.
They give one every year. It's true. And very
There's
unpopular.
only one Bradley Van Pelt, you see,
Popular
but they
Heisman,
give a
too.
Heisman to every year. There's an NFL MVP every year.
In the last
cares?
30 years, AJ, easily bottom
Oh,
2-3
my
least
God.
marketable Heismans of the last 30 years. Am I wrong?
Now he's just firing off shots.
How old
Am
were
I
you?
wrong?
How old
Just-
were you?
Can you name the Heisman winners from the last 30 years?
Eric Crouch, Vince Young, a bunch we just named in the first segment, which has proven my effing point. But yeah, I mean, I think so. I
You
think
think
one of the
Troy
least
Smith
popular.
was more marketable than Rashawn Salam?
When did he win the Heisman?
I don't know, like
Exactly.
2002.
Exactly. Eric Crouch,
Yeah.
much
Do you
more
remember? Do you remember
marketable
when
than
Jason
Rashawn
White
Salam.
won the Heisman?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that happened.
It did.
I don't think that happened.
Sure did.
Oh my god.
And then he didn't even get drafted.
More or less marketable, that guy or Bradley Van Pelt.
Jason
Exactly. Bradley Van Pelt.
Jason
Thank you for making my point.
Jason White won the Heisman
Thank
in
you for making my
Oklahoma, bro.
Bro, with like 5 busted ACLs? Like, come on. We're gonna
Yes.
spend endorsement money on that
How
guy
many?
now?
What did Bradley Van Pelt win with 2 good ACLs? A couple CSU games?
It's
Who
true.
cares?
It's true. Maybe a couple WAC championships, I think.
Oh my
might have
God.
been in the mix.
I
It's true.
don't think so. Anyways,
On-field
You
accomplishments, not what we're talking
I
about.
would like it to be.
okay, all right,
I would like it to be known that I never said which who would have made more money, CU or CSU player. No, I was
It's all
just
Andre's
asking.
fault.
And Andre
No,
just went and we had
It's all for
CU
snickering as soon as I said Bradley Van Pelt when he knows how marketable he was at that time.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna say.
Sincere misremembering. Just stay away. Let's move on. Christian
No,
McCaffrey,
no.
Lendell White are the other local guys. Blah blah blah.
Here's what
Missy
I'll say.
Franklin, you'd want to mention as well. There you go.
Here's
Andre,
what
are
I'll
you
say.
just trying to end the podcast? Like you're like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
You chose the right one. He would have been the most marketable for them. He had the long, flowy hair. He kind of looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. He was a quarterback. That always helps. He had like iconic moments that they could have made, T-shirts out of or whatever whatever they wanted to do. And he still would have been less marketable.
No.
Here comes the incorrect.
No more
no.
Listed all the correct
Stop.
facts, and now here comes the bullshit. Prepare
Stop.
for it.
There's this running back named Christian Powell for CU during their worst possible season.
Stop. Okay.
That's all I'll say.
What's
Is there
Christian
any
Powell?
other Ram that you guys can think of?
Joey Porter.
Garrett Grayson would have been very marketable. Porter, of course. You had Sims, Capri Bibbs had some big
Because a
years.
lot of this isn't
Cecil
just like
Sapp.
a
Cecil
lot
Sapp,
of
yep,
this,
yep.
in my
Cecil
opinion,
Sapp.
isn't just like the best players. It also is ones with personality, ones where moments happen where and so I like Henry, I wasn't around during that time, so I can't specifically remember Rams like moments. So that's why I'm asking what Rams, if there's anyone else.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of like maybe some potential Olympic sport athletes that we're maybe forgetting, or like
Martin Laird,
golfer.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe,
Big marketability. Yeah.
Maybe.
The homies are buzzing about that one. Yeah, no doubt.
Andre, your sass was down. Your sass level
you
was
guys
at
are
a 1.
full of it. You're full of
And
it.
then
You shouldn't have dedicated a Ram segment if Ryan was just going to shit on Bradley Van Poppel. It makes no sense. It's a setup. It makes no sense. It's a setup. Makes no sense.
You're the one who threw the alley for the oop, bro.
Thank you.
You can't.
You want to see Ryan's face. That's what provoked it all. That's what provoked. Snarkiness provoked it all. Snarkiness
Ryan
provoked
just
it all.
agreed with you that out of all of the Rams, he is the one.
That was all a setup to then shit all over him. How naive are you? How naive are you? Come on. I gotta explain you how sentences are formulated now. Please.
Oh my god, this is amazing content.
Bro, this is like throwing. This is like throwing the pass that leads to a dunk and then claiming that dunking is bad for basketball.
Yeah.
This is insane, bro. What are you talking about? You did this.
AJ and Ryan have so insincere in remembering that era. Completely insincere.
I've actually never said anything bad about Bradley Van Pelt this entire time.
Yeah.
All
That's
he
a
said
fact.
is you can't compare him to those other players. Literally, he never said anything bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Okay, well, Andre wants to get out of here, so what a hectic way to end the show.
Like Cordell had the miracle in Michigan.
Okay. Is there any other players that you guys have thought of recently that you didn't think of earlier for the first segment?
Well, I just wanted to think if there's any other Colorado school that we aren't thinking of, like a DU player or anything like that.
Yeah, like Mark Matthews in lacrosse. Like, come on.
I know.
It's just not
What
big
about
enough.
DU with hockey?
I mean, college hockey is in itself decidedly unmarketable.
The superstars of college hockey are guys that like nerds like Bruto and myself are familiar with.
Yeah.
But
like an Air Force.
It's just not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if there are any that we're missing, but if there are, to the person who's going to tweet about it, you're right.
We're sorry. You're right. We missed it. It's a Thursday and it feels like a Friday, and Andre's sass level is just insane. So, like,
shout out Vincent Jackson back in the day.
Justin just texted me Austin Eckler, but no one even knew who he was until Andre wrote an article about him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ray was the only one.
Opposite. Yeah.
Trevor
Hi, Justin.
Justin said Trevor Baptiste. He was a DU lacrosse player.
Face-off. He was a face-off guy, yeah.
He threw Fredette out for the first segment. Which definitely, Fredette would have made a lot of money and kind of has that Tebow thing going for him.
And did he play 4 years?
Yeah.
He was an upperclassman. I want to say he was a junior, but still.
There you go.
Yeah, and then, Colorado Preps, who went on to play college, McCaffrey, Linda White's on those USC teams and would have made a lot of money, even locally. McCaffrey's a runner-up. Who's the Kansas State kid who was a
Colin Klein?
Colin Klein.
Paul Stasny wasn't really a big deal. The guy wasn't even a first-round pick.
Because the thing is, you have to remember, like, it's not like what could he get after. It's what could Paul Stasny have earned while he was at DU.
Yeah,
like,
and he was
not that much.
He was only there for a year or two. I think he was only there for 2 years. So
and like Missy Franklin's a Colorado product, right? And she wins a ton of golds at 16, then goes to Cal. So she would have made NIL money off what she did.
That's very true. She would have actually
prior, right?
Because she was already a gold medalist before she went to college.
Yeah.
So there's probably a few others like that we're maybe forgetting. But
Tim in the comments brought up Amy Van Dyken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
She was a huge deal back during her
Yeah.
Olympic run.
Yeah, big time. But then is she making money as a college athlete?
Glenn Campbell went to Miami. He did make money as a college athlete.
yeah, good for him. All right.
obviously, as we did this show, I'm surprised that we really didn't get as many negative people in the comments as I've seen on Twitter lately. A lot of people are very angry about this subject. Clearly, have we all been talking and feel. I think that we all feel very similar to the subject. That go get your money, guys.
There's just I don't know how you could possibly argue against someone being able to capitalize off their own likeness.
Their own likeness, yeah.
Yeah, like I can understand where people are coming from if they want to have the conversation about schools directly paying players.
Right, it's a
But this is the-
Pandora's box type of.
This is about players being able to capitalize on their own likeness, of being able to go out and get money. Like if somebody wants to buy them something, if somebody wants to give them an opportunity to make money because of their stature at college, they're allowed to do that now.
In the same way that a band kid can book a gig at some bar or play piano at a church or whatever and get $50 for it.
Exactly.
That's not allowed. Well, it is now allowed for college athletes because that just makes sense.
This was a way more of a common sense change, and not the as RK put it, the Pandora's box of schools directly paying players. I can understand where that's way more of a conversation, a way more complicated situation, but like this, I think, and I think what's going to be great for the players is that the creative schools. This might give a CU an opportunity where if they're really creative, if they're really aggressive about how they brand players, they might be able to get themselves into some interesting recruiting battles that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to if they are able to successfully market. Hey, we can get you guys paid in this community. We can bring you guys in, and say a company like a DNVR exists and wants to extend that opportunity to a star player where, hey, you can make money off of your likeness with that as part of coming to that school. And I think that'll add an interesting wrinkle to the social media departments have already been a big deal at colleges for a while. Yeah. But I think this is really going to ramp it up and make it so that the more creative schools will be able to make the most use of this, and not just have it be like, oh, well, Ohio State's just going to crush everybody in the Big Ten because they're Ohio State and that's just how life goes. I think it'll be interesting to see for some of the kids at some of the other schools what they're able to capitalize on. Really rabid fan bases in smaller communities that don't have the national profile, but definitely might be able to make a good amount of money locally.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've already seen the details today from a couple of schools, some of the creative things they're doing. Syracuse said that they're going to let student athletes use the Syracuse branding as long they have to go to them first and say, like, approve this. But in all of those ads, all those things, they say, yeah, not only is your face on it, our logo's on it too. You can do that, and that's just one more way to get more money for them. We saw, I think there's like a report out from one of the big reporters that said one of the major schools, they had a flagship radio station say that every season they're going to pick 5 guys to be on a radio show for a segment once a week, and they're going to give each of them $25,000. Wow. And so you're already seeing what this is looking like for the year, $25,000 a year, I should say. So we're starting
not per episode.
Yeah.
To any CU athletes watching this, we can't pay you that much.
No, but yeah, there's a lot of people who are looking into, like, athletes who are looking into get into broadcasting, where radio experience, that type of thing is so helpful. And the fact that they're already working out and doing everything and playing at sports in college, that takes so much time. And if you're going to dedicate time to something else, it really helps if you can get paid with it for it. And that way you can put that towards your needs to live in college towns, all of that. It's very expensive. Yeah. So, and again, the NIL stands for names, images, and likenesses. There we go.
Yeah.
So that's what players can profit off of: their names, images, likenesses.
Yeah, and I loved what AJ said about schools getting creative, and what's cool about it is they have to do things now that are going to help these guys, and it's a cool like that's a beneficial thing. So CU started their own thing. It's called Buffs with a Brand, right? It's a program that these kids can kind of go to and learn and find out. Hey, how do I do this if I want to go like make a deal with a place? Like what should I do? Can I hire representation? All this type of stuff. And it's just one thing. CU's been working on that since this got announced. So it's a fully. They didn't just start it today. They've been ready for this type of stuff, and they've been preparing the student athletes for this type of stuff. And I just think it's cool. It forces the schools to go out of their way to help these kids learn how to build their brand, and in all the ways that the NCAA has taken advantage of these students, now they're going to be forced to put them in a position where they can profit off themselves, which I think is the right thing to do.
And especially in today's society, you can make a living off of building your brand. We've seen that with social media, with TikTok, with Instagram. Like, this can be a full-time job, and it's them learning business, like learning how to sell themselves, learning deals. And I really, really hope that schools like CU continue to do these programs, because the last thing you want is for some of these kids to get taken advantage of from other like businesses, and for them to just be screwed out of money because people are like, oh, they don't know. They're like college kids. Like, oh, we can get this out of them. And so it's teaching them business, and it's a lot of really interesting things for them to learn to market and use their brand for the future.
And worth noting that CU Buffs with a Brand program, that was the first of any Division I school. And so then the Buffs get to put all the social media stuff out saying, we were the first ones, look how much we care, and pull in more student athletes just by being the best at helping them with the name, image, likeness. It's a much better system than what they had before.
Yep. It'd be really interesting when schools like are recruiting kids by saying like, hey, this guy who came before you played running back made $1 million off of selling T-shirts, like whatever it is, like that's going to create, it's going to be really interesting to see how that type of thing changes college athletics.
Totally. Well, this was an interesting topic. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being sassy, Andre. We always appreciate that. It was a fun show, to say the least. We hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July weekend, and we will see you guys next week. And next week will probably be all-star themed, or maybe the following week. We'll see. But definitely always hang out. We may be doing podcasts more on Thursday. I know you guys are used to us doing Friday at 2:30, but there's new things in the works at DNVR, new shows, all this stuff, really exciting. So just keep an eye out. We'll be tweeting out when we go live and all that stuff. So if you're interested in watching us live, just check our social media platforms, and we will see you guys next week. Where's the thing?